Hi, Joanne here. I haven't been live for a little while. Sorry if you can hear the noise in the background of the fan going. We're having a bit of a heat wave in the UK, so I'm having to be followed around by a very large fan. I haven't been live, and I've been feeling like I've kind of lost my mojo in terms of energy, but also passion and excitement. And occasionally I get little flashes of it and then it disappears again. And I thought, you know what I need to do? I need to hit record. But you know, when you hit record without going live, it's kind of, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? I thought I need some of that adrenaline pumping through, that I need to just go live, see if anybody's about, and just kind of talk about this feeling of, as I say, losing your mojo, just losing that oomph. I was listening to something the other day, and he was saying about journaling, morning pages, and saying like things that he's angry about every day, or things, you know, the negative stuff. Like, I'm angry about this, or I'm fed up of this. And I've deliberately stayed away from the news. So maybe to get the mojo back, it's part of getting fired up and being angry or mad about something. And if I'm honest, I'm just not interested in being mad and angry about stuff right now. But I say maybe that's because, as I say, just that feeling of, ugh. So yeah, so I thought, well, I'll just come on and live. Yeah, it tends to make me smile when I come on and do a live. So if you're about, saying hi, just if you've got any questions, pop it down, and I'll see what I can to answer the questions. I was talking to somebody the other day that there was research that I read ages ago, and they were talking about depression and the idea that you forget the things that you like to do. And I think, I mean, I don't feel like I'm depressed or anything, but I do feel this sensation of, I've just forgotten things that I like. There's certain things that I find hard to do because not having the energy or different things like that. But I think what's really happened is that I've forgotten a lot of things. And also, one of the problems is I struggle with energy. I struggle to read, and there's some things I struggle with, but I think what I've done is put everything into one pot rather than being a bit more discerning and saying, well, this part of the task I can do and this part I can. And I was talking to somebody the other day, I was saying about throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It was about something else, but it's a similar kind of thing. I think what I've done is say, oh, I can't do that hobby anymore because it wears me out and whatever, instead of trying to think about, oh, there's little parts of it that I can do, or I'm not meeting up with friends so much. But I could speak to them on the phone, or maybe send some messages and different things. But I think that smaller effort is, even as I'm saying it to you, makes me feel like, oh, no, where's the excitement with that? I'm trying to make the goal and the target that much smaller, and it just feels nothing. And as I say, when I'm saying about mojo, I mean the motivation, just the excitement and the buzzing and that feeling of, oh, I can't wait to do this. And so yes, I don't know if you're a creator, and I saw a poll that was done by the Skinner brothers the other day, and they were saying, what do you like about independent artists? And they're asking a few different questions, and it is this, one of the things that's hard is to keep going if you are an independent artist when there isn't really much conversation. So that's why I thought I'd come on and do the live. So like saying hi, if you have any questions, please ask. I was just saying that I feel like a little bit of the mojo's gone, a little bit of the motivation. I think there seems to be this whole outrage thing going on, and I really want to stay away from it, but I can see why people use it for a bit of an energy boost. So, and then Mike says he was here before once. I keep changing the camera setter, so I'm looking backwards and forwards with the different cameras. Are you a creator? Are you somebody that needs to find motivation, or are you somebody that has a structure and work and different things like that? I'm wondering whether you have to keep finding that enthusiasm. He says many months ago. Yes, you're right sometimes. Are you writing as much as you'd like to write? I was saying earlier that I think what happens with, I do like writing, but I think I've put writing in a big block of writing as a hobby. And so when I'm feeling tired or unmotivated, I just don't touch it at all instead of breaking it down. And perhaps you can give me advice. Are you like writing poems? I think, have you said to me before about writing poems? Or maybe there's a couple of people out there that like writing poems. I think there must be a way to break down the hobby. As I say, but part of me is wondering whether by breaking it down, that just sucks all the life and the energy out of it. So yeah, I don't really know much about poems. I went to a class to love learning, want to learn about poems, went to a class, and I was hoping that they would give me a little bit of foundation. This is how we read a poem. This is how, like you, I think by the end of the class, I realized, oh, there's a value to reading aloud a poem, even if it's at home on your own. I didn't realize the musicality of it was such a big thing. But at the beginning of it, when we had to do the homework and different things, I didn't know that part of things. And I was so out of my depth, I ended up leaving in tears. And this is me in a lot of things I really want to learn. But sometimes when you go into these classes, they're saying, oh, the poems are for you to interpret as you want to interpret. But I feel like that isn't anything for me to hold on to. And I really struggle to have any comprehension of whatever is going on until I've given a little bit of a foundation skill of, even if they'd have said to me, you may find it useful to read it aloud and to notice the rhythm of it, and not even telling me what the poem was about, that might be useful. But as I said, they didn't tell me anything, and it seemed that everybody else in the class knew how to interpret poetry and I didn't. And I just felt a complete idiot, and kind of pressed all my buttons. And I think I was there for the second time after the homework, and I ended up just crying, leaving. I've done a lot of language classes where I end up crying and leaving. And I tell people I want to learn, and it's like they're teaching something and they're missing out the beginning steps. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm just going to check on your comments. And he says, what was this dream about again? I forget. I just said at the beginning that I lost my mojo. And one of the ways for me is I like the lives because there's a chance that somebody else is going to be there. And sometimes when you're recording and when you're writing, you don't really have that sense of somebody's there or somebody's going to be picking up. So there's a little bit more energy with this. And I haven't been hitting record for the longer videos. And I thought, oh, maybe I should just go live. And honestly, I only had this little title of like, I've lost my mojo. Typically, I have a few things in mind that I might want to say. And I just thought, I have nothing. I feel like I feel so zapped that I have nothing. And yet I have nearly 1,000 tabs open. So there must be ideas going on. There must be things that interest me. And then, as I say, something is happening that we're hitting record. I don't know whether I'm in my head too much, but something about doing a live and the idea that somebody might show up and might ask a question, or I don't know, just hang out for a little while, gets a little bit of that energy and enthusiasm going. And I thought, what I'll do is do the live and then afterwards see how I film, see if they want to film something. So there you go. Do you prefer writing with a pen on paper or on a computer? I like both. I do a lot of scribbles. I always have pen and paper in front of me. I like scribbling, but it doesn't tend to be writing as in a full sentence. It's words, particular words, and then there's arrows linking to other words, so representing certain ideas. So that's does it. Is it writing? I suppose it's one phase of the writing, isn't it? Sort of ideas and as I say, it's words and it's little groups of words, 2 or 3 words together that some expression that I've heard. I was talking in a video a little while ago about feeling that I'd lost a sense of naivety about how the world works. And then I read something about loss of innocence. And I thought, oh, I think that phrase, loss of innocence. So that's something that I would write down, loss of innocence, because typically I say naive. I was naive at the time and then moving to cynical. So I know that those are familiar words, but the loss of innocence made me feel like I think that's in literature. I think that's in poetry. I think that's in music. And so I went down a bit of a rabbit hole of loss of innocence and I wrote that down. And I was thinking, I think it seems more poetry like. And I thought, no, I'll find out a little bit more about that. So I write that. And then I typically like to write then on the computer and swap around and move ideas around. I like writing nonfiction, although I have done a children's book, but nonfiction. I think I saw your next question, so I'm going to bounce to that one. It says, are you an English teacher? Am I an English teacher? No, I'm not an English teacher, and I'm not qualified as an English teacher, and I'd be terrible as an English teacher. Have I taught English before, and have I been on apps teaching English? Yes. So that's why I kind of hesitated. I was on an app called Hello. I think it's Hello with HA, and I've lived overseas. I've lived in Spain for 7-8 years, and then I was in Kazakhstan for a couple of years, and then Myanmar for a couple of years. And particularly in Kazakhstan, I was teaching teachers. So there was English teachers there that had English as a second language. So they already had English. So I was helping them with the speaking skills and thinking on their feet and self-expression, really. Yeah, mainly thinking on your feet and self-expression. When I was in Spain, I used to teach at a university there. But again, mainly the thinking on your feet and public speaking and different things. So they had English as a second language, but I wasn't teaching the grammar or the vocabulary. I was giving them feedback on the clarity of the message and how that they were communicating. So kind of a little bit different. I feel like this is something I've really struggled with, is that when I say I used to teach speaking skills, people would assume public speaking. When I mentioned it was to people with English as a second language, they would assume I was teaching English. And actually what I was doing was kind of something in the middle of those. So excuse me. Yeah. So I haven't done a huge amount of that on the channel that I've got here, but I'm struggling with this. I felt like I had to give up on that side of things, this under the teaching, because I felt like it wasn't working as a business. And maybe that's where the mojo went. Maybe, for a long time, I felt like that was my purpose, for 20 years or so. And then I just wasn't able to be successful communicating that message. One of the reasons was I was so uncomfortable on camera. I didn't think, for me, public speaking and speaking on camera are two different things. And I didn't feel like I was an expert at the public speaking. I was just helping people with thinking on their feet and feeling a bit more confident and giving a few tricks and stuff like that. I've seen more comments. I'm just going to go. Do I ever play Wordle? I have played Wordle, but I don't do it much. I did a little a version of it, like Wordle, but I think it was called something else. And I did for a little. Sorry, I just saw the curtains flapping, and I just got a bit confused about what side was what. what have I done? Wordle. I was struggling with the vocabulary side of things. And I noticed when I played one of these word games, it wasn't Wordle, but it was something similar with the letters in a circle and see how many 5-letter words you could do. I realized I was really bad at it. And part of me thought, I need to keep my brain active and to be doing these games. And obviously, when you do play it every day, you get better at it in terms of the vocabulary. So he's saying, lost your mojo. I think they call that writer's block. sorry to cough down the microphone. Yeah, I haven't been doing the writing. I think part of it was I'd kind of set a project to one side, saying that's the next project, and then I need to do that. And I think that's what stumped me. Part of it was I felt like it was almost completed, but I couldn't bear to look at it to complete it. But that's not really writer's block. It's that resistance. Do you follow Stephen Pressfield? It might be the whole resistance thing of completing a project and putting it out there. Gosh, the long hair in my mouth. So I think I haven't looked at that project. I moved it closer. It was the other side of this desk, and I thought, this is a terrible tactic for writing. Just move all the paperwork closer, and you'll feel like you've done some work when you haven't actually done any work. So, and then Mike was asking, is teaching kindergartners or adults easier? I always liked working with adults because the adults that I was working with, gosh, I'm doing a lot of ums and ahs today. The adults I was working with wanted to learn, and I liked that. I'd done a tiny bit with teenagers, not much. I did work at what was primary school, I think, in would it be primary school? I'm thinking the youngest probably were 8 or 9. There was a nursery there was a couple of nurseries I think I worked at, but I worked with the teachers, not the children. But obviously I did have in mind exercises and songs and different things to share with the teachers that they could then go and do with the children. And in Kazakhstan, the nurseries in particular, the ones that were very successful were English-speaking nurseries, although the staff had English as a second language. So they were trying to make it where it was completely natural to be speaking English. So I was trying to help and guide them with not necessarily correct English, but just that sense of, oh, this is how a natural conversation would flow. So yeah, adults, I do prefer adults. It was fun teaching the younger children, and I had another teacher with me who had Russian, so she could help and do the discipline side of things, and I just did the fun, building confidence speaking side of things. And he's saying, yep, that's the spelling bee game. Do you agree that being a kindergarten teacher would one of the most easy and fulfilling jobs? I don't think it would be the easy job. No, I think it'd be exhausting. Oh my goodness. Would it be fulfilling? I think it could be fulfilling if that's what calls to you. I don't know what job you do, but I definitely don't see it as an easy job. I did find teaching the adults that I did at the university, I found that very fulfilling. I really did like it, and I liked just trying to think. Yeah, I definitely was on a high after those classes. One of the problems was I used to fly in. They used to group my classes together, and I used to live in Madrid. So when I was living in Madrid, I could just do the classes. And then I moved back to the UK, and they used to fly me in and but group all the classes together. The only trouble was I was so high, I was so excited, I liked the work so much that I went out and I went shopping afterwards. And I used to come home and my husband was saying, have you bought another handbag? And I go, not one handbag. It's like I was buying 2 or 3 handbags because I like the Spanish leather and the Spanish style. shouldn't admit that really. So it wasn't really a earn money, pay the bills type of job. It was just fun and enjoying the teaching and being really high and feeling kind of powerful and important and kind of nonsense stuff. But yeah, exciting. And then Mike says, I think it would be fulfilling to help the next generation. Yeah, I'm sure it's fulfilling. I like the adults. The adults that I was working with wanted to learn, and that was just a gift to be around. So, as I say, they wanted to speak up, even if they were feeling shy or awkward or anything like that. They really wanted to learn and to get better. So that was really great. Do I like the UK or Spain more? I love Spain, and I've wanted to live in Spain since I was 15. So, but that's kind of an emotional, where do I just have some sort of connection to Spain, which isn't really a logical thing. I didn't speak Spanish. I didn't know anybody over there. And then I ended up meeting my husband over there, and we began our married life there. We thought we'd be there forever. And then life stuff happens. So UK is definitely easier, because when you're in a country where you're not fluent and you don't know the ins and outs and you don't have a huge network of people that you know, then it is harder. But no, I have a soft spot for Spain. I definitely do. But right now, I really like the village that I live in. Love my home. My daughter's really settled. My daughter's 11 years old. Loves the village. Loves the home. She's, moved. We adopted her when we were in Myanmar. She's actually from Ethiopia. So she's moved a few times already, and she likes the stability and being here. So I'm building my life here. I haven't ruled out being in Spain again, although this week has been hot and it's made me think, oh my goodness, I could not handle Spain if it was like this for a long time. How is the weather in Spain compared to us? So there you go. There's the next question. So it's boiling. Now, I lived in Madrid for a little while, and then I moved to Barcelona and outside of Barcelona. So Madrid can get so hot. Typically in August, everybody leaves Madrid and they go off on holidays. A lot of the companies sort of shut down over the August time. But there's so much, I don't know why. I think it's sort of that concrete, and it feels like the heat is bouncing up off the concrete. And so you would typically in the UK think that, around the lunchtime, 2 or 3 o'clock, it gets the hottest. But in Madrid, it felt like it just kept getting hotter in the evening, the afternoon, evening. And it's like, oh my goodness, it was unbearable. But saying that, then you have air conditioning in every building that you go into. When I worked there, which was 20 years ago, 21 years ago, they were still smoking in the office. So you'd have air conditioning, but then you'd have somebody having a cigarette next to you. So yeah, and obviously I was younger when I was there, and I wasn't so impacted by the weather. You just stay inside. If you want to keep cool, you just stay inside. And Mike's saying, okay, I've got an appointment now. Nice talking to you. Thank you for doing some questions. Thank you for helping me get the mojo back and a bit of excitement. I think maybe that's what I needed. I just needed to have somebody reach out and connect, rather than being my own head thinking, what shall I write and what shall I do? So go write a poem. I know you've got an appointment now. Go do some writing too. See if I can give you a push, whether you do it on paper or on the computer. Go do a poem. But thank you for being here. You're fine if you need to go. That's fine. Don't worry. I'm going to hover for a little bit, see if anybody else is about. But thank you for your questions. And for anybody else who's here, if you've got any questions, I'm talking about Mojo. I think one of the things is I have a tendency to want to be in my own head and figure the stuff out, rather than interacting with somebody else and picking up the energy and the vibes. And see, that's just the natural thing that I do. And it's not good. I know it's not good. I know I don't know why I keep doing it. So I think that's why the live really helps. So anybody else that wants to put a question? I'm not planning on doing any reaction videos. I haven't set up OBS to do reactions on the lives yet. I'm just hitting go live on YouTube. I've been talking about feeling a bit flat in terms of motivation. So if you're creating and you're putting things off, then you've got a question about that, then please feel free to ask a question. So what else can I tell you? I was just saying to Mike that I'd lived in different countries. What else can I tell you? I've been doing daily videos on YouTube for just over a year now. And although I said to myself, I'd just do 2 minutes a day, what happened was some momentum started going. So I would do the 2 minute video and then I'd think, oh, I've got an idea for another video. And it ends up being a 6 minute or 8 minute. And that was a bonus video. And then a bit later, there'd be another bonus. And before I knew it, I was doing 2 or 3 of these extra videos on top of the 2 minute videos that I did every day. And what I've realized in the last 1-2 months, I've stopped doing these extra videos. Occasionally I'll come on and do a live. And I do feel like the live really helps just to have that little boost of energy. Anyway, I don't know. I didn't have a plan on what to say. I don't have any reactions to do. How can I help you? I can see people are around, but questions about YouTube, questions about writing. What can I share with you? I can share that I think it has helped. I think I needed to hit record and start making stuff rather than thinking in my head what's going to work and what would be good and what do I really care about speaking. You know what? I completely get why people say talk about your passion and what's really important to you to talk about. But if that becomes a brain freeze thing where I can't think of anything to say, then that's not helpful. All these things that people say are helpful. If you're not making something afterwards, it's not helpful. So even if that is technically and expert advice and different things, if you're not hitting recording or if you're not writing and you're not doing it, then you need to be thinking of something else. And so for me, maybe instead of thinking, what do you care about? What's passionate? And, you know, you must talk about this. Say, hit live and say anything and hope that people do questions just to get some energy going. Oh, dear me. Come on, guys, you must have some questions. Have you turned on the camera for yourself? Is this an issue about creating, about artists? I do cartoon. If you don't know me, if you accidentally landed here because you don't know me, I do cartoons. I'm fascinated by self-expression. I started off with not being able to think of anything, like having this brain freeze, so much so that I wrote a book about it. And it's just like, I felt like nobody was talking about it. I felt like there was so much expert advice about how to be articulate and just speak. I was like, my brain is empty. I was saying earlier that I worked in Madrid, and when I went for the interview in Madrid, I forgot my name and I forgot how to say hello in Spanish, which is hola. And I couldn't remember. My brain just completely froze. And I feel like people aren't talking about those kind of things. So that was why I was doing this. I do sometimes wonder when I can see that there's different people around and then they're not in the chat. I'm like, oh, is this people I know? So that'd be, if it's somebody I know, hello. Yes, I'm doing this strange thing of being on YouTube and making videos. And I thought I haven't been making as much as I wanted to make, and I could make excuses saying health reasons or it's hot or it's hard or whatever. Instead of just sharing this part of it, is that I'm feeling a bit flat. I feel like I lost the mojo, and I just wanting to create an interesting, exciting video has ended up meaning that I create nothing. I started again with the drawing today. I did a little cartoon today, and I noticed that the pen was out of charge. So everything is just going to feel a little clunky, if that makes sense, that it's not kind of flowing together. But I think going live for me gets some of the adrenaline going. It feels a bit of a high wire act of, I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know if anybody's going to show up. I don't know. So that kind of gets some excitement going again. Anyway, people that are here and asking questions, so I may be cutting it short if there's any other final questions. But I do think it's helped. So thank you to Mike for, if it comes back later, thank you for the questions. Thank you for showing up. And if you watch this at a later stage and you've got ideas about feeling excited, or you've got a question for me, just pop it in. Now, I don't think I'm going to hang around much longer. I shall do my daily video, keep the fan on me, and move on. But take care. Bye.